an hour and 20 minutes into the show. So we'll keep this one trucking along because we got some questions for Twist and we want to go over the blast results. And we also have to get stuck into this fucking ESIC stuff. So
to be fair, there's not that much about the ESIC stuff.
We got to do a couple things. First thing, Daddy B always admits when he's wrong. And the other day, when the ESIC stuff came down, and right now we're talking about the Australian shit. We'll talk about the Vitality shit in a second. When I wake up and I get a little bit of a notification from some of the people a day before that there is about to be a mass fucking banning of my countrymen. Now, I want to say this: I haven't been home in many a year. I consider myself very disconnected from the scene, but I still have a lot of pride in Australian Counter-Strike players. When I see that this thing comes out, and the first thing I read is these players are banned, and I should have read it more clearly. Obviously, this is why I'm apologizing. My first instinct is, oh my fucking God, they are bringing shame on the name of Australian CS. Us plucky fucking cunts with accents who have shrimp on the barbie and like drinking beer, who've had to work really hard to get into World Counter-Strike, squandering our name because we want to have a couple of bets on our own matches. That is my initial thought on that whole situation. At a finer look, or a second glance, let's put it like that, it appears that not as all as it seems. And this is a discussion I know that we were having within our little Discord chat, boys, and it's these bans that have come on through for these 35 players from ESIC, ranging from 12 months to 40 months, was it 48 months, something like that. They're not it's not as clear as the way the community took it. I think a lot of people read that like I did and assumed that these guys were fixing their own matches. Do we want to try and clarify that a little bit better, Striker? Maybe you're better with words than I here to clarify all of those, not obviously not all the bans, because some of them maybe they were match fixing.
Yeah, the thing is, like, we don't actually know individual reasonings for those bans. We can just like deduct things from the length of them, because basically, like, all the 20, what was it, 12 months or 24 months? 12 months,
12
right?
months was
the
if they were
lowest.
betting in general, right?
Yeah, exactly. Those we assume were just for betting on any match in competitions that or is it just any match at a pro level, even not just the competitions that they actually took part in, even if it was like outside of their own matches, which is obviously something that Valve have commented on and just suggested that nobody takes part in. If you have like, background knowledge of as like a pro player or as somebody who's in the scene, like in my position, for example, I shouldn't bet on matches either, because I have a lot of background information that the public doesn't really have access to, right? So I shouldn't be betting on matches because I just have an unfair advantage compared to those people, right? So as somebody who competes in these tournaments like on a regular basis, you're already basically considered a pro in this view, just because you just have a lot more information than everybody else who's just usually betting on these matches. And that's why you shouldn't really take part in that. And this is something that's obviously maybe not been made clear enough by, like, whether it be organizers or ESIC or Valve, just because they basically like posted about it once and then kind of never really got back to it, or just never really plastered it anywhere else. So I guess that's where the problem comes from, essentially, that people didn't even realize they were doing something wrong in these cases where they were just betting on any match, any random match that happened at the top tier or whatever.
Yeah, like one thing, as Striker mentions, there is a blog about it, and that blog is from 2015, probably something around that time. And I linked it on my Twitter like 10 times, but every time people are like, first time seeing this, never saw this before. So it's not like everyone knows about it, even though you can say, oh, this is common knowledge. Like, it's not common. Like, people don't know how to boil an egg. So let's not pretend like
True.
Common knowledge is you shouldn't bet on other matches because you're kind of a pro or something, whatever. I think one of the big discussions that started after this, and why SPUNJ, you deleted your tweet as well, is we realized that not all of these guys are, I wouldn't consider them a pro, definitely.
Yeah,
these are guys that literally started playing ESEA Premier in Australia for like Rooster 2, literally not a massive organization. And they are betting on fucking Australis phase grand final of a tournament, right? And I doubt that guy has a lot of inside information. Yeah. Now, of course, it would be ideal for him to not bet. But that's kind of stretching, not even being like punished at all and being punished for a month ban, like a year-long ban. That could be maybe too much.
Yeah.
I also had people like messaging me saying that they bet before they joined the ESEA Premier on like maybe ESEA Premier or maybe not even like some random matches, like big team matches, and then they got banned. Maybe that's also not a thing that should. Maybe that's an error. Who knows? But there are some of these situations where it's not clear cut what's going on there. So yeah.
Is that actually what happened? Was that the
We
players
don't
were betting
know.
on higher tier matches?
So it's
some
really
of them
unclear
surely
right now.
are. Like we don't know how many, but
That's
they're.
pretty messed up that they actually got banned for so long.
It's wild because if that is the case, and they were banned for, like, could you imagine, right? You play football on the weekend for a club, and then you got banned from playing football for your local club down the park with some of your your mates or your colleagues, and you were betting on a Premier League match. Like, that's kind of how I'm equating it.
Sure.
Like, these are kids, right? Like, who are playing in, look, Australian Premier ESEA guys. You face at level 10s in Europe would fucking wipe the floor with these kids. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm being serious. This is the level of Counter-Strike we're talking about. And they've been considered under like the banner of pro. Like,
I guess that's the problem there, right? But what you were just talking about, because like, where do you draw the line in that case then?
Could be a
Like, that's-
compliment.
What? Oh, a compliment, sure. Yeah, I mean, if you get bad for a year, maybe it's not so much of a compliment. But then I guess that's the problem. Like, from ESIC's standpoint, right? Where do we draw the line? Because you can't really draw the line at salaries because it's just impossible to determine like who's actually salaried, who's not. You can't keep track of that as somebody who's kind of like on the outskirts, right, of the scene and not really have as much information available. So it's just like, I get it from both sides. I think the biggest problem is just the awareness part of it, that like a lot of these people, I'm sure, were not aware of that they were doing something that they shouldn't be.
Russell,
Yeah.
how well known was it for you boys not to bet? Like, is that like really drilled into you?
Yeah, it's pretty drilled in. It's like we've made jokes sometimes. If we were like, damn, if we were to bet, like,
Sure.
we would 100% it. We would ace these bets. But like, it's pretty known for us not to bet, and that we could get in big trouble for it. And yeah, I think it's really unfair to ban some of these players for a year. If they're young players, what does that do? It makes them go to Valorant.
Yeah.
And so we lose more players to the other scene. And this is how we destroy our own system that we're building here. So I think there should be some reconsiderations there on ESIC's part. And yeah.
Definitely at least like a part like warning to these people, just because, yeah, as I said, like awareness was, I'm sure, like a really big factor in this. So if they got a warning that, okay, you can't bet, you have to be careful about this or whatever, then I feel like it would have been enough for a lot of these cases. Obviously, I don't know how many of these cases were actually where they just bet on like a match that wasn't even in the competition that they played in. If it's in the competition that they play in, I can definitely understand that, right? Because there is 100%, like a lot of these players around
scrimming against them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And just some information that will help you make decisions with betting, right? So like within the same competition, I get it. But if you're like fucking a world away, and not really even have any sort of connections to these people, like then obviously that becomes a gray area for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I could have even made the same mistake, say if I was like a premier player, like, yeah, I see a Strauss like playing really well, and for some reason they have low odds versus this team, I'm just gonna like bet on them.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually a very common mistake. And I mean, we see 35 players banned, so it really goes to show how like people weren't informed at all.
It also, you have to take into account like different, like just in different countries, betting is not that big of a thing. Like in Australia, it is, and in the US, betting on sports not that big of a thing, just because of all of the regulations and stuff like that. So for some people, it's going to be more accessible, more like normal than for others. And it's always, when stuff like this happens, it's always funny to read the comments. It's like, oh, this is obviously how it has to be, because in my country, this is how it is. But in some other country, it's not like that. So with this like global situation, it's always weird when we get into these things.
Yeah.
Devil Walk had a good comment. He said ESIC is obviously made by Riot to influx more players into their scenes.
Holy shit, dude! The biggest conspiracy theory of them all.
Now let's get into the next bit about ESIC, right? Because this is some more interesting stuff that happened over Blast.
Always a blast.
Always a blast. So if you weren't watching, you would have noticed that Vitality were at their facility, which is where they tend to play most of the events that they prioritize from. It's a glass little room that they have their PCs in. And in that room, there's normally the 6 of the players. There's the coach. There's Matt, the assistant coach. There's normally some fucking entourage of, whoever the fuck else is in there, whether it's the owner getting mad at Apex for giving the finger to the camera. There's always a million people in that fucking room with Vitality. But that's not my point. The point here is, on the other side of that glass, it appears to me like it's a bit of like a lobby, like a chill out, watch a television area where, there's probably some couches or some beanbags. There's also a television. And on that television, lo and behold, was the stream of the game that they were playing in. Now, if you remember late last year, ESIC, they came out and they said, listen, motherfuckers, all y'all been cheating with some stream sniping and we ain't going to have any more of that. If you see you doing it again, we're going to come down on y'all with the book. Now, Vitality...
ESIC just became Texan all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what's going on up here, man. I've lost my mind. But anyway, they came out and said that they're gonna drop that ban hammer, basically, right? If anybody's caught doing this in the future, this is your warning. You're all being known because you've all been doing dirty shit. Don't do it anymore. And then Vitality, with that circumstance that I just had the game up. Do I think that there was any intent for them to cheat? No, but is that the point? I don't know. So this is where we're going to have this conversation, because Vitality were fined $10,000 by ESIC, which we all know in gamer money for that team is nothing. We also know that the org came out and accepted responsibility that there was staff who left the TV on. It had nothing to do with the players. We might need to break this down into multiple different camps. So first of all, Russell, let's start with your opinion on stream sniping in the online era. Do you think, right, it is as big of a deal as what it has been made out to be? And not just necessarily the Vitality situation, but the situation in, do you think that people can benefit an extreme amount in these games if they were doing this and intentionally cheating?
I'd say that there's very, very few situations where you can actually benefit from stream sniping. Say if you take a technical pause, and your teammate DC'd at the beginning of the round, they have the match medic, and for some reason the admin doesn't know how to do this, and suddenly you have the stream up, it's a 4-minute pause, so you can see their economy. That's the only situation where it would actually benefit a team. Whereas before, in the earlier of the year, the stream delay was only something absurd, 3 minutes or something, 2.
I think it was even less. Yeah,
it was 2 minutes.
A minute and a half, I think, even. Yeah, something like that.
And that's an actual situation where teams could benefit and exploit the defense or the aggression of teams. Now that's a problem, and I feel like they should be looking into the people that stream snipe back then, because there had to be teams that were doing it in the online era. In terms of now, with these 5-6 minute delays, there's no way. There's nothing you can benefit from. You're 2-3 rounds in the past. The economy isn't even the same. People are changing positions. There's no information to gain.
Okay. So that right there is probably the opinion that I think the majority of people on this side think, but we need to present the other side, because it was quite the mob of angry people on the internet, and even people digging deeper and looking into more footage and going, well, Vitality have this many people in the room. Why is this motherfucker on his phone? Why is this guy doing this? It just became, how many things can we nitpick and blame these people for and almost try and tear them down and make them hate themselves and their lives, right? That's what this becomes from at least my standpoint. So, Prof, when you look at this situation that unfolded and how it all transpired, do you think that this is something that we're going to be able to avoid, or are we just out here looking for as many dramas as we possibly can?
Of course, we're looking for dramas,
okay,
definitely. But it kind of, it's understandable, I feel like,
Especially after what ESIC said, right?
because yeah, what ESIC said and what was not said was they didn't say like who, like let's just roll back to their last announcement about the stream sniping was like widespread occurrence of stream sniping, and we will not process it because it's so widespread, and we don't know like what happened, how much, blah blah. So people are kind of mad about that, and they want people. They kind of said, okay, we'll live with this, but then the next time if someone does it, he's gonna get so fucked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the mob mentality, the fan mentality right now. And now someone did it, so they're angry and they want everyone that wasn't punished before to be punished through vitality, for vitality to be our Jesus Christ Lord and Savior, and to die for all of the sins from everyone before, right? That's how it feels to me. Even though when you look at it, it's not that big of a deal, as you explained. Obviously, it's not that big of a deal when you have 5-minute delay, and it pretty much seemed like not on purpose thing. And they had audio and other video footage as well to prove that no information was passed on, right? Because from what I understood, that was what ESIC researched about the vitality situation, and that's why they got such a small fine. It was a small fine because, okay, you did a stupid thing, please turn off the TV next time. Don't do this. This looks dumb. But you didn't actually use it, so it wasn't on purpose. We're not going to ban you for years. And that kind of makes sense, right?
It's just my okay, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say that I'm luckily that maybe they didn't look in the past, because I feel like there's a lot of scenarios in online CS where, say, if you're watching the match like prior to yours, and then you suddenly go into the game to like warm up, and you leave your Google Chrome tab open, you have the stream in the background, and you happen to be logged in. That's like a super unlucky scenario that could happen to like a player. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
This is what happened on that day in my mind, right? Because they were the last series of the day. I think I already spoke about this. It feels like I'm getting massive deja vu. This is how this day.
Not on this podcast.
So I can repeat myself. This is how the day went for me, right? They knew they were last game of the day. They came into practice whenever the fuck that they had practice set for. They're doing all their prac. They're doing all their prep. They're warming up. They have a break. They have some food. Okay, first series for some unknown reason. Complexity win a 12-3 first. I think this was the same day. Have a 12-3 first half, T-side Mirage, and then still manages to go overtime. Classic Counter-Strike these days, right? Then the second map, it's really long too. And then the third map, series finally ends. It's like, fuck, that was the first series. Jesus Christ, we're behind schedule. Couple of tech delays, couple more. Boys are still warming up. Everything's good. Having your meals, chilling out on the couch, watching the games, doing everything you do. Next game goes, fucking drags out as well. Jesus Christ, it's fucking late. Navira and Masuda and Zaiwu, because they're all young and sprightly, they haven't left the room. They're just fucking glued there playing deathmatch, getting their aim in, ready to fucking frag. The other boys, Shocks and Apex, they're out there with Xtaz, are sitting on the couch, they're all just chatting some shit, watching the TV. And then the series finally ends, and they go, all right, fuck yeah, boys, let's go, let's get in the room. And they all go in the room, and they forget to turn off the fucking TV, right? That, for me, is probably the most likely situation of what actually happened. Now, the question becomes, Striker, and I'm going to throw this one your way, is whether or not that's the point, right? Because this is where the other side is. This is where the community side is. This is the other content being made around this stuff. Is that the point? The fact that these people were negligent and they clearly fucked up, right? There's no doubt about that. But regardless of that, should we be prosecuting to the full sense of the law? Is this because that's obviously the people, the angry mobs mentality, right? Do you think that there's any merit in that yeah, they should have been disqualified, we should have got rid of them? Can you see that angle?
No, I definitely am. I definitely are on the side of I don't really give a shit, to be honest. Like if you wanted to, you could get away with it very easily. Even with 3 cameras in the room, even with all the communication recorded, you can have a screen off to the side. Like, they have a fucking glass room, right? If they wanted to, they could have the screen off to the side where no cameras can see it, and even the players can fucking look at it if they just glance over to a teammate, right? There's so many situations where you could get away with it very easily, and you just can't prevent it. So I feel like if there are rules that you just can't prevent, and they are this easily gone around, then like what's even the fucking point, right, of having that and of prosecuting everybody for doing that, especially considering like now the standard is like a 5-6 minute delay on the stream, where like literally the only time, as Twist said, where it has any sort of big impact is when you can read the economy in a technical pause for the next round, right? And they've tried to get around that by not showing the economy during those technical pauses and stuff like that. But obviously, it's still pretty hard to do.
This is the one thing, and we've said this before on the show, and I don't know what we were talking about at the time, but I'm going to say it again. Can we just not fucking cheat, right? Let's just leave it there. Let's just leave it there. Where it's a game with competitors, and I know what I'm saying here is ridiculous because people, when there's money and pursuit and glory and all this kind of shit, people cheat. Look at the fucking what's his name, Lance Armstrong, right? People cheat, but can we try and at least just as people just hold ourselves to a better standard? And can we also try, because like I fucked up as well by like jumping to conclusions quickly. Can we also try and like, let's try and be sensible about things in a way? Because it's just crazy. Because I was reading these Reddit detective morons also in the threads going, well, Liquid had the game on in the fucking background too, man. And it's like Jason's PC literally in game as the coach. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you guys talking about? Like, are we just out for blood? Do we just want to spill as much blood and ruin Counter-Strike? That's fine. Let's do it. We can all go to Valorant, right? Let's just all go to Valorant and fuck it. We've only been doing this for the majority of my fucking life. Let's just throw it all in because we just want to blow as much shit up as we can. Because that's the way it's starting to feel. Reality TV is exciting for everybody, right, at home because it's drama, right? That's what it is. You watch Big Brother, you go, oh, she's flirting with this guy, but we also saw her flirting with this guy. That's what this shit is. And that's the shit we get off on because we're human beings and we're fucked in the head. But instead of being like that, can we try and just be a little bit better, right? Because we don't have to be like that. And if we all try, we can all be a little bit better. Anyway, do we have anything else we want to touch on with this one, boys? Or do we want to keep
talk
on
about
moving?
Blast?
All right, Blast. Let's do it.
Actually, there was one ESIC situation that I don't know how it got swept under the rug.
Here we go.
But there was NA players that clearly match fixed too, and that they moved to Valorant.
I think that's still coming.
Yeah, this investigation's gone on forever. Like I feel like it's just they're hoping people forget about it.
So this one here now, Russell, you've just lit a fucking match and thrown it into the world because now I feel what you're saying here is that people were not doing what the Aussie players were doing. These people were intentionally going for a bit of an eye by power maneuver. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And these players have moved to Valorant, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is where the thing is, we all kind of know like the type of players that you're talking about here, and I'm not going to throw out any names because I don't want to falsely accuse people of this shit. But apparently, Striker, you can correct me on this one. I know that you keep up with all the ESIC shit. They're still working on this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So are we expecting anything from this in the near future? Have you heard anything?
Not particularly. I had somebody ask me about it if I've heard anything, just because whatever. I don't want to get into it too much because I would probably throw somebody under the bus. But I've been asked about it, like if I've heard anything, but I just really haven't. I think that's kind of be like behind closed doors. They're trying to figure it out, like how deep it went and stuff like that. But we've heard about it before. Like they've even publicly stated that they're looking into these into like very serious allegations of match fixing in the NAMDL. And all that. So we know that it's coming. We just don't know when. And that, I guess it's just taking a long time because there's a lot to process.
I think that something as well to consider might be what kind of grounds the ESIC have to help prosecute. Like if they want to just ban people from Counter-Strike, that's one thing. But if these people, what they're doing is a crime, right? And I think gambling in America, obviously quite a strict thing with the whole Vegas stuff and everything like that. But I don't know if ESIC have their clause in North American legislation and stuff as well as they do in Australia, because one of the blokes from ESIC is Australian, I think.
I mean, they have Australian base.
There you go. So I think for them it may have been, and this sounds bad, but I don't care. I think some of the Australian stuff was low hanging fruit. It was like, yeah, we can get away with this because we know what the law is on this within Australia, right? So they were so maybe the North American stuff, they just need to cross their T's and dot their I's a bit more, because if it is as bad as what we're saying and thinking here, this type of stuff is where Valve probably come back in with the ban hammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't be surprised if they were involved, by the way.
Yeah. Well, look, we've all heard murmurs of how bad this shit is, and the thing is, I don't even know what we do about it. Like in the sense of, like I just said, can we just not cheat? This is just that some people, like I said, like I can think of a couple of North American players who are a bit hard up in life, don't have a lot of money, were basically hoping they could win rank S to get their money to pay like rent and that kind of shit. And for them, they're obviously looking at the world in a different perspective, right? But anyway, Russell, unless do you want to say more on this? Do you got any more you want to put on this one?
No, I just think there should be a bigger punishment for trying to steal money and swap to a different game.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
hopefully that punishment comes. Let's look forward